Welcome back, Year 7s. This is Lesson 5. I've seen some great work you lot have been doing, so keep it up and welcome to your next lesson. Today we are looking at rebellions and revolts and how both the Normans and Romans dealt with these problems. We will then look at the similarities and differences between both of their approaches of dealing with this. Today's driving question is, how different was the way the Romans dealt with revolts to the way the Normans dealt with revolts? Now, just like every other lesson we have done at home, you're going to start at the knowledge quiz. So I want you to go to that part of the lesson that is called knowledge quiz and give the 10 revision questions based on the lessons we've done so far. So the first 4 lessons, a go. Pause the video now. Brilliant. Now we are going to look at the Romans first. The biggest rebellion they faced was from Boudicca. Boudicca, also written as Boudicca, was a Celtic queen who led a revolt against the Roman rule in ancient Britain in AD 60 or 61. At the age of 18, Boudicca married Prasutagus, king of the Iceni tribe of modern-day East Anglia. It was believed she was born into an elite family of the Camoleum, which is now called Colchester, in around AD 30. When the Romans conquered southern England in AD 43, most Celtic tribes were forced to submit, but the Romans let Prasutagus continue in power as a forced ally of the empire. When he died without a male heir in AD 60, the Romans confiscated his family's land and property. So why did Boudicca revolt? When her husband died, King Prasutagus, the law stated that half of his land should go to his wife and half would go to the Romans. The Romans, however, decided this was not enough for them. They told Boudicca they were taking everything. Boudicca and her 2 daughters refused to give in, so Roman soldiers came and dragged them from their home. They tied them up, whipped them and humiliated them in front of their tribe. Boudicca was now forced with a choice. She could either give in to the Romans, giving up her land, her animals and her home and her throne, or stand up to the Romans. She decided to stand up to the Romans. Here we have 6 sources that all describe the tactics for both sides of the rebellion. Source A was written by a Roman writer called Tacitus, who was in Londinium, or London as it is now known, when Boudicca arrived. Those who were unfit for war because of their sex and age, or were too fond of the place to leave, were butchered by the enemy. This shows that Boudicca and her troops were quite brutal. Source B, also written by Tacitus. The barbarians only wanted the plunder. They passed by fortresses with army garrisons and attacked the richest places, which were not defended. So this shows that Boudicca was only interested in money. Source C, Boudicca to her army before the battle, according to Tacitus. So apparently this is what she said. Win the battle or die. That is what I, a woman, will do. You men can live on as slaves if you want. This shows she was ambitious with her rebellion. Source D was the Roman general's plan, according to Tacitus. He chose a place approached by a narrow valley, protected from behind by a fortress. He made sure no enemy were behind him. There was no chance of an ambush, so this is great tactics by the Romans. They attacked Boudicca and her people and made sure they were not beaten. Think about this source when you look at similarities with the Normans. Source E, Tacitus again. There were women. There were more women than warriors. Most of them were not trained or equipped for war. So this is saying that Boudicca and her people were not well trained. Possibly another similarity between the Normans when we look at the Harry and the Norse. So keep source D and source E in mind for later tasks. Source F, also written by Tacitus. The legions kept their position protected by the narrow valley and accurately threw their spears. Then they advanced in a wedge shape. Then the horses with their lances broke through all who resisted. The enemy fled, but were tracked by their own wagons which surrounded them. Our soldiers killed everyone, even the women. Think about the brutality of that when we look at Normans later. The Romans killed everyone that took part in these rebellions. Each source shows a different reason for how and why the Romans stopped the rebellion. When it comes to the exam question, look at sources D, E, and F in particular for similarities with the Normans. So go and do the task now. This is called task 1. You are looking for task 1. Pause the video now. Fantastic. Now to look at the Normans and how they stopped rebellions. We are in particular looking at the harrying of the North. Now the definition to harry or harrying is to continually carry out attacks on enemy or an enemy's territory. So even when you have won, if you are harrying, you are then carrying on attacking them. So if there was a fight between two people and one person was punching an unconscious person on the ground on the floor, they are harrying. They're continually attacking that person even though they have already won. The harrying of the North was in 1069, and it showed that William was prepared to take extreme measures to keep England under his control. Reasons for the harrying. Firstly, William wanted to take revenge for the death of his friend Robert de Coombs and hundreds of other Normans. There had been a number of uprisings in the North. William wanted to destroy the spirit of the rebellion in the North, prevent Yorkshire being used as a base for future attacks, and warn other areas of England what could happen to them. The harrying of the North took place in the winter of 1069 into the early months of 1070. The area of the harrying stretched all the way across the north of England. People's homes were destroyed, so they had nowhere to live. Further to this, seeds were destroyed, so there was nothing to plant for food for next year, as well as salt being placed in the ground to stop crops from growing. To make matters worse, the Saxons' animals were killed, so there was no food at all. So a lot of extreme measures the Normans took here. We have our first major similarity between both the Romans and the Normans, the fact they both used force and major violence to stop rebellions and revolts. Now here we have the results of the harrying of the North. This one here, cannibalism, is probably the worst and is the result of the salt in the ground and the killing of animals. Cannibalism is where you eat humans. And they resulted to this because they were starving. With this task, all you are doing is putting these in order. So you'll write these out and you'll have the worst effect at the top and the nicest one, the one that's no biggie, at the bottom. Go to task 2 now. Bravo! Now we're on to the final task. The final task will really help you with the exam question. All you have to do is fill these out with as many similarities as possible. I would use extreme violence in both of the first ones as one of my similarities. And then looking back at the tasks that you've done, the videos that I've put up, the PowerPoint, everything else to find as many similarities as possible. The more you write in this table, the easier the exam question will be. Think about if both groups of people were successful in stopping the rebellions. Were there any other rebellions after Boudicca? Were there any other rebellions after the Harry of the North? Is that a similarity? Pause the video now and off you go and do the task. Now here is the exam question. It is very similar to the ones we have looked at so far this term. Use the work you have done and these sentence starters to help you get full marks. I know a lot of people in my class have been getting full marks in the exam questions, so keep this up. Brilliant. The last task of the lesson is the exit ticket. This is where you fill out a quiz to find out how much you have learnt from this lesson. You can use things from the videos, from the sheets, from the task, from the exam question, from this video itself. Absolutely well done, guys. I'm really impressed with how well you are working. Keep this up, and I'll see you all next week for lesson 6. Thank you.